Is Olden Era becoming a PvP game first? After my recent roadmap video, this concern, together with the current state of the AI, came up more than almost any other. Many of you felt that competitive features and PvP balancing are receiving a lot of attention, while the traditional single-player experience is still waiting for some of its most important pieces. Of course, Olden Era is not literally a PvP-only game. There is already PvE content. Random maps can be played alone, and more single-player content is planned as development continues. But I think the concern is still worth taking seriously. Looking through your comments, most of you were not asking Unfrozen to abandon PvP. Some even said that they enjoy playing against other people, but often find it too stressful or simply do not have the time for a longer competitive match. Sometimes you just want to start the game, relax, and play at your own pace. The concern was therefore not that PvP exists. It was about the amount of attention it appears to receive compared with solo play. Many of you mentioned the limited number of handcrafted maps, the current variety of single-player content, and missing quest objects. Others were worried that balance changes driven mainly by competitive matches could also affect the parts of the game that make PvE enjoyable. And several players said that they had already played through the available content that interested them and currently had little reason to return. So the complaint is not that Olden Era has no PvE. It is that, for some players, the current PvE experience does not yet offer enough depth, variety, or longevity. The AI is another major part of the single-player discussion, but it deserves a much closer look of its own. I will explore that topic in the follow-up video, so consider subscribing if you do not want to miss it. For now, let us focus on why Olden Era currently feels so PvP heavy to many players, what that focus may contribute to PvE, and where that argument reaches its limits. For many Heroes fans, PvE is not simply the competitive game with an AI opponent replacing the other player. PvP often rewards speed, optimization, and finding the strongest path before your opponent does. A traditional solo adventure can offer something very different: slow progression, exploration, unexpected rewards, and the feeling of gradually building an increasingly powerful hero and army. These two experiences can share the same factions, creatures, and combat system, but they do not always need the same map design or the same balance philosophy. That does not mean the current random map templates have no value for solo players. They provide an important kind of replayability. Even when the overall structure remains familiar and towns tend to stay in similar locations, creatures, buildings, and resources can be scattered differently. That means every playthrough is at least a little different, and the player may need to adjust their route or their decisions. Handcrafted scenarios offer something else. They usually have more personality, stronger pacing, and a greater sense of adventure, because every location has been placed deliberately. The map maker can create distinct regions, plan discoveries, visual storytelling, and memorable encounters. In previous Heroes games, features such as Seers huts, quest guards, and key tents often gave exploration a stronger sense of purpose, with objectives and discoveries that could unfold across the entire map. But after playing the same scenario several times, the player will naturally begin to remember where everything is. Ideally, Olden Era needs both random maps for replayability and handcrafted scenarios for atmosphere, exploration, and memorable adventures. This brings me back to water gameplays and underground layers, since both also came up frequently in your comments. These are not purely PvE features. Both could add alternative routes, narrow passages that players can control or defend, and more varied map structures for competitive players. But for many solo players, their value goes beyond strategy. Sailing towards an unknown island or discovering an entrance into a hidden underground region adds to the feeling of going on an adventure. They also give map makers more ways to create larger maps, with distinct areas, secrets, and different stages of progression. So why might Unfrozen currently be putting so much attention on PvP? There are several possible explanations, and none of them necessarily mean that the developers want Olden Era to become an esports game. Competitive players produce a large amount of detailed feedback. They play repeatedly, search for the strongest strategies, and quickly discover weak skills, dominant factions, or unintended combinations. Competitive players are also highly visible. They stream, create guides, and discuss balance constantly, while a casual solo player may simply finish the available content and quietly stop playing. That can make competitive feedback seem larger and more urgent, even if solo players represent a substantial part of the audience. PvP also provides relatively clear information. Developers can examine which factions win most often, which heroes are selected, a creature that is almost never worth recruiting, which skills are ignored, and how long matches usually last. That information can improve solo play as well. Better balance can give PvE players more viable choices and make every faction more satisfying to use. And during early access, multiplayer systems can provide many repeatable matches, while handcrafted maps, campaign chapters, and complex adventure features take longer to produce. The core game may also need to become more stable before too much permanent content is built around it. Factions, creatures, skills, and progression are still being adjusted. If those systems change significantly, existing campaign missions and scenarios may also need to be rebalanced. But there is an important limit to this argument. Better PvP balance does not automatically create a better PvE experience. Competitive multiplayer usually needs predictability, fairness, and relatively equal opportunities. PvE can thrive on asymmetry, unusual rewards, intentionally difficult encounters, and powerful combinations that make the player feel increasingly unstoppable. If every creature, spell, and skill is balanced only around competitive matches, the game could become fairer, while also becoming less exciting for solo players. And no amount of PvP balancing can replace handcrafted maps, quests, richer exploration, a robust map editor, or an AI that creates an enjoyable challenge. PvP development can strengthen the foundation of PvE, but it cannot substitute for dedicated PvE design. We also have to remember that Olden Era has only recently entered early access. The game is still being developed. Core systems may change, and the complete release is likely still a considerable distance away. It would therefore be too early to conclude that the finished game will remain as PvP focused as the current version feels. Large campaigns, new map systems, and more complex PvE features naturally require time. But early access does not make these concerns irrelevant. In fact, this is exactly when players should explain what they believe is missing. It is to help ensure that the finished version supports the many different ways in which Heroes fans enjoy playing. And on that note, Unfrozen may have more to share about PvE in the near future. It may be worth keeping an eye out for upcoming news. So, is Olden Era a PvP game only? No. But I understand why many of you currently feel that PvP is setting the direction. The most visible features, balanced discussions, and roadmap priorities often revolve around multiplayer, while some of the additions that solo players are waiting for still appear to be further away. It is too early to decide what Olden Era will ultimately become, but it is not too early for PvE players to make their concerns heard. And in the next video, we will take a much closer look at another major part of the single-player experience, the AI. I also want to thank all of you who took the time to share your perspective, whether it was positive or critical. I truly value these discussions and always look forward to hearing what you think. Thank you for watching. This is Anna with Heroes Take Turns. Farewell until we meet again.